Blog Talk Radio.
Good afternoon. Welcome to today's show, Talking Business with Madam C.J. Walker Manufacturing Company. This is Brenda Johnson-Padgett, your host here on A-Swift Radio. Today we will take a look at the history and transformation of the legendary company that was started by Madam C.J. Walker in Indianapolis, Indiana in 1910. The Madam C.J. Walker Manufacturing Company has transformed itself over the years, changed its name, and has taken on new ownership. We have Vivian Randolph, who is the president of Madam C.J. Walker Enterprises. She is here to tell us all about the company's history and about their line of hair care products. Vivian, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Okay. Well, Vivian, let us start off with the name change. When did the name Madam C.J. Walker Manufacturing Company become Madam C.J. Walker Enterprises?
Well, originally, when Madam Incorporated, as you noted, she moved her business to Indianapolis in 1910, mainly because Indianapolis was a crossroads state. All the trains intersected here, and so being the business-minded person that she was, she felt as though that put her in an opportune position to be able to distribute her products and to travel. In 1911, she incorporated her business here in Indianapolis. And when she incorporated, the name was actually Madam C.J. Walker Manufacturing Company of Indiana. Later, after her passing, the trustees that were placed over her trust that basically kept the business going changed the name or shortened it simply to Madam C.J. Walker Manufacturing Company.
Okay.
In 1985, when my father purchased the company, he kept that name. But then in 1993, we decided that we should expand the company and put it in 21st century terms, and so we modified the name, and now we do business today as Madam C.J. Walker Enterprises with the concept and idea of expanding Madam's company into other enterprises.
Okay, well, great. Okay, now, Vivian, what was Madam C.J. Walker's philosophy on entrepreneurship, and does the company today still go by her philosophy?
Yes, her philosophy was really simple. It was really putting the power in the hands of the people. Madam C.J. Walker started what we know today as direct sell marketing, and that was established by her she actually traveled city to city, state to state, and she would recruit Madam C.J. Walker agents, which is what they were called, or the other name she coined was beauty culturists, because she taught them how to, quote-unquote, cultivate hair or grow hair. And so she would go all over the country and rent out halls and churches and things like that, and she would do a presentation of her products. She even had a projector and slides, the whole nine, and she would teach them basically the benefit of using her product. And she empowered those that signed up for her program in two ways. They were trained how to use the product, and so they could, quote-unquote, do hair, and she also taught them how to sell the product. So there were two ways that they could make money. They could use the product on hair and charge for styling hair and, quote-unquote, cultivating hair, and they could also sell the product. And so at a time when white men were making about a certain amount of money in a week's time, her agents were making twice that much in 2 or 3 days. So she empowered the individual woman and men to make money for themselves. Since that time, after her passing, and even while she was alive, she also started distributing her products in barbershops and things like that, and then later in certain drugstores. After her passing, the trustees actually mainly distributed her products via drugstores. There were still Walker Beauty schools and there were still Walker agents, but they relied more heavily as time went on in specifically the 40s and 50s and 60s. They relied more heavily on beauty supply stores and jobbers like drugstores to distribute the product. After my father passed in 2002, we decided to reinstitute Madam Walker's original direct sell model. And presently today, that is how the bulk of the product is distributed. We actually still manufacture her original products, and we recruit Madam Walker agents all over the country and elsewhere internationally to sell the product. They buy from us wholesale at a 40% discount and sell retail. So we have, quote-unquote, put the power back into the hands of the people and actually tried our best to tap into Madam's original program and the spirit in which she did what she did, because she was all about empowering black people in particular to make money for themselves. As one article noted, she is probably the most underrated person as it pertains to the self-help movement, because she was really about empowering individuals to make money for themselves. And so we tapped back into that spirit and actually reinstituted that direct sell model.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, now if Madam C.J. Walker were living today, do you think she would take the same approach that she did back then, especially in this economy today? What do you think she would do faced with this type of economy that we're in today?
Well, given the difficulty that so many Americans have finding employment right now, I think she would definitely stick to the model that she helped to originate, which was going back to direct sales, empowering individual people to make money for themselves. With people not able to make mortgage payments or car payments, selling product directly and having another source of income helps people to make ends meet. But I also think she would, obviously, because even back then she was kind of before her time and always thinking forward, I think she would utilize the Internet, which we do as well, and we have a website at www.madamwalker.net, and our products can also be purchased via the website. So I think Madam Walker would continue to do what she did. In fact, it's probably needed just as much now as it was then, and I also think she would utilize the Internet and take advantage of that market as well.
Okay. Well, thank you, Vivian. Also, can you tell us about the Madam C.J. Walker Enterprises management team today, and who are they and what do they do?
Well, I am the president of the company, but let me go back a bit. Many people don't know that Madam C.J. Walker, per the terms of her will, placed 2/3 of the stock of her company in a trust. She was the owner of all 1,000 shares of stock of her company. But per the terms of her will, 2/3 were placed in a trust over which were 5 trustees. The other 1/3 was given to her daughter, her only daughter, Lilia. Lilia, per the terms of her will, split, if you will, her 1/3 share, and she gave 1/6 to one family and the other 1/6 to another family, both of those families being somehow tied into the company. And then in 1985, the trustees approached my father, and they received permission from the probate court to sell the 2/3 stock of the company to him. And the 2 families that owned the other shares also sold their shares to my father. So he actually became the first person since Madam to own all 1,000 shares of stock in the company. After his passing, I really was already president of the company, but we relied heavily on my father's guidance. The company's secretary and vice president is Joyce Randolph, who is my mother, and a host of other family members, my sisters and our children, have been trained in how to manufacture Madam Walker products. And so the entire family pretty much helps out in the operation, the day-to-day operation of the company.
Okay, thank you, Vivian. It is now 11 minutes past the hour, time for a commercial break. I'm Brenda Johnson-Padgett here on ASWIFT Radio.
Are you looking for an interesting book title for your child? Check out our books at BrendaPadgett.com and click on our juvenile section. You will find history books, chapter books, computer software, and more. Books at BrendaPadgett.com are also sold at reasonable prices. Check us out at www.BrendaPadgett.com. Information is key to opportunities, so pick up a book. ASWIFT Writer's Guild is for those who have the talent to put pen or brush to paper to create a unique and valuable piece of work. ASWIFT is always looking for new talents to enhance the literary, visual, and performing arts. For more information on how you can become a member of ASWIFT Writers Guild, visit www.aswifttwritersguild.com or call 1-866-302-0508. ASWIFT Radio, bringing you the best in radio, keeping you informed, and highlighting your day with Brenda Padgett, Eunice Bridges, and Galinda Fields on ASWIFT Radio. Ambassador sent with information for this time. Tune in online to ASWIFT Radio here at www.blogtalkradio.com/ASWIFT Radio. Call us anytime off air at 1-866-302-0508, extension 3060. ASWIFT Radio.
Welcome back to our show, Talking Business with Madam C.J. Walker Enterprises, here on ASWIFT Radio. I'm Brenda Johnson-Padgett, your host. We are talking with Vivian Randolph, who is the president of Madam C.J. Walker Enterprises. In the first segment, we learned that the company changed owners in 1985 and has also had a name change. We left off with Vivian giving us an overview of the management team of Madam C.J. Walker Enterprises. Vivian, can you tell us a little more about your dad, Raymond Randolph, and the vision he had when he first took over Madam C.J. Walker Manufacturing Company? Was he the one that came up with the new name, Madam C.J. Walker Enterprises?
Well, that was a collaborative effort between the two of us. Originally, we kept the name the same. The first thing that my father did that was of significance, however, was he placed Madam Walker's face back on the jars. A lot of people don't realize that Madam Walker kind of bucked the trend of her day by putting her own black face on her jars, because many African-American businesses actually utilize light-skinned or white models to advertise their products, whereas Madam said, no, I think my face will do. This was kind of a before its time move that she made by putting her own image on her jars. After her passing in the late 40s, early 50s, the trustees and the officers of the company decided to repackage the jars, and they actually removed Madam's face from the jars and went with a different logo, which was basically an M over a W. When my father purchased the company, he felt as though we should actually place her face back on the jars. So that was one of the first significant things that he did when he repackaged the products. His vision for the company was really the same as Madam's, or it was to rebuild the company and bring it back to its former status. When he purchased the company, essentially it was a shell of itself. They were actually manufacturing almost on an as-need basis. The company was manufacturing in a building in Indianapolis called the Stutz Building in the basement. and the line had been reduced just back to some of the original oils. So it was a very small-scale operation at that time. There were no modern computers. All the equipment was antiquated or just obsolete. So the first thing he had to do was to modernize everything, and repackaging was part of that. So his vision and our vision today is to, number one, always keep to the forefront the spirit in which Madam did everything she did, and the underlying purpose that pretty much drove her, and that purpose was a sense of duty to her people and a sense of duty to others. Everything she did, she always had in her mind a way in which to help people. Much of the money that was derived from manufacturing her hair care products and selling them and creating this network of Walker agents, the money derived from that enterprise was used to do a lot of philanthropic deeds. She was a donator to many educational institutes and also to all kinds of different social movements. She visited President Woodrow Wilson in 1917 to demand that lynching be made a federal crime. And so her agents were politicized as well. So she had 25,000 agents that were basically a troop of mobilized women and men who understood that they had social responsibilities beyond just making money for themselves. So my father, and since his passing, myself and my mother and the rest of the family are always trying to make sure that in every move we make with this company, we keep that core idea at the forefront of our mind. And, of course, we want to make quality products as well, and we focus on what Madam focused on, which was growing hair. One of the historical inaccuracies that we often have to refute is the idea that Madam focused on straightening hair or that she invented the pressing comb. In fact, Madam did not invent the pressing comb. It had been around for years. It was actually a creation or an invention out of France. And the pressing comb had been used and was being used before Madam started selling her products. Madam said that she deplored such impressions that she claimed to straighten hair because she had always held herself out as a hair culturist. She defiantly and definitively said, "I grow hair." And she went on to say that she had wanted the great masses of her people to take better pride in their appearance. And so she really focused on the technique of scalp nurturing and scalp stimulation and scalp maintenance, because she understood that to quote-unquote grow hair, you needed to put your focus on the scalp. So our entire line of products and the products have been built upon. We continue to manufacture the original products that Madam introduced years ago according to her original formula, and we have built upon that foundation and have added a natural vegetable shampoo, 2 different types of conditioner, and a lock and twist cream. But our basic message is, in fact, to go back to the basics of hair care. And so we teach a very simple methodology, which is the exact same methodology that Madam had, which was a clean scalp with a shampoo that doesn't use sulfates and harsh ingredients, conditioner to soften and detangle, and then oil for scalp maintenance and also to provide sheen and softness to the hair. So we teach developing a regimen or a ritual for your hair. And our products actually work very well at helping to maintain a healthy head of hair. We just don't buy that whole thing about, my hair won't grow. We teach people how to properly care for their hair, just as Madam did.
Okay. Well, great. Okay, how old is the company today, and can you tell us how old it is today, the company itself?
Well, the company was incorporated, as I mentioned earlier, in 1911.
Okay.
Some of the historical accounts say that the company, that she started selling her product in 1905. However, the records of the company actually show that she began selling her products in 1900. The tax records indicate that that's when she began selling door-to-door, and the commemorative literature and whatnot where they celebrated, say, 50-year anniversary, et cetera, in 1950 indicates obviously that she began in 1900. However, she didn't incorporate and become an actual business incorporated corporation until September of 1911. So we are actually celebrating the centennial celebration of the company's incorporation on September 24th of this year.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it's 100 years old, about 100 years old?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
100,
well, great.
quote-unquote, plus.
Okay, 100. Okay. Well, can we see 100 more years? Will we be
God
expected
willing.
to see
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Well,
God.
I mean, with grandchildren and, taking on the family business, and I would say yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And with God's blessing, that will be the case.
Well, great. Okay. During Madam C.J. Walker's time, her biggest competitor was Annie Malone. Who would you consider your competitor today, and why?
Our biggest competitor today is ignorance, quite honestly.
Okay.
Not any particular company, because what causes the companies that are successful to be successful is the fact that they have the type of money to put into ads that basically mislead people. And it is ignorance that is is our biggest competitor. Once we educate people on the benefits of our products, it's easy to sell and it's easy to make money and keep this company successful. What we find is that because we have been sold a manufactured concept of what beauty is, that's where we find the biggest resistance. You have the demonization of petrolatum-based products, and yet, we've got everything from plastic that weaves and glue and sewing and front lace and wigs and blonde bleaching and pink and red and all of these different colors, and I criticize those not because I'm criticizing the look that people want, but the methodology used to create these looks is killing our hair, and that's why we emphasize going back to the basics. I get the calls all day, every day about, help me, I've lost my hair, from young people, 26, 27-year-olds that should have a head full of hair and that used to have a head full of hair until they started doing the things like applying 500 degrees of heat on already chemically treated or relaxed hair and already bleached hair. You can't continue to do these things and expect to have hair. And you definitely are not going to be able to do it and have healthy hair and then completely ignore the scalp. We have gotten away from the concept of quote-unquote oiling the scalp, believing that that was old-fashioned. That's what people used to do. Well, newsflash, we used to have hair as well, and now we don't. And the reason we don't is because we are ignoring basic principles of hair and scalp maintenance. And we have bought hook, line, and sinker of these concepts like there's a relaxer that conditions. There is no relaxer on the planet that conditions. That is impossible, because the whole process of what a relaxer does in order to, quote-unquote, relax the hair is damaging. And there is no conditioning in the damage. The whole point of it is to break the hair down. And the same thing can be said of the bleach, which strips the hair of its melanin. The colors, the dyes are extremely dangerous. They can get into your bloodstream and accumulate. And so you see women that are suffering today from things like chemical sensitization, which is from years and years of relaxing and or bleaching and dyeing the hair. And these chemicals, which get into their bloodstream via the scalp, accumulate in their body. And maybe not in their 20s or their 30s or even 40s, but starting in their 50s, they start to have basically immune reactions to these chemicals. So we are really, really combating ignorance, the idea that petrolatum is bad for you. This is a flat-out lie. It clogs the pores. That's ridiculous. First of all, you wouldn't even consider showering or taking a bath and then getting out and not putting on lotion or something to re-moisturize the skin. Well, most of those lotions, the second, third ingredient, are petrolatum and mineral oil. These are cosmetic grade, obviously. And so the idea that petrolatum clogs the pore, when dermatologists recommend ointments that are petrolatum-based, they recommend lotions like Eucerin, which second and third ingredient are, as I mentioned, petrolatum and mineral oil. If they, quote-unquote, clog the pores, as has been reported, then, why would they be recommended by dermatologists for actually healing the skin? The truth of the matter is that there is no emollient found on the planet that moisturizes, softens, and heals the skin like petrolatum. That's just a fact. When people say, well, I want natural, well, you can't get any more natural than petrolatum. It cannot be and has not been and will never be duplicated in the test tube. It cannot be. It is produced in Mother Nature's kitchen. Is it organic? Organic just means carbon-based. Yes, it's a hydrocarbon. So it's organic. It's natural. It's produced by Mother Nature, and it's purified. It's not the petroleum that you put in your car. It is petrolatum. It is extracted, and it is cleaned. And so it's important to get the message out to people about the truth about petrolatum because they've just been lied to. And I'm always amazed at the rejection of, oh, no, that's not petrolatum. But the embrace of relaxer, the embracing of the glue that, is glued to your actual hair to attach, plastic or so-called human hair. And we will utilize and embrace all of those things and yet push back on an emollient that has been proven time and time again. Extensive research is out there about petrolatum. And it has no equal.
Okay, Vivian, I know
Sorry to ramble there, but we wanted to
that's okay. I know we're running out of time, but I did want you, before we go, is to tell us about your upcoming book. I know you guys do have a upcoming book called The Rape of Madam C.J. Walker and Her Company. Can you just tell us a brief synopsis about that and also why you feel it was necessary to write this book?
Yes, ma'am. Quickly, basically, the point of the book is the history of the company. When my father purchased the company, of course, we got all the historical documents that went along with it, letters written by Madam, the minutes books of the company, the financial records of the company, etc. And there's an untold story there that most people don't know. What people don't know, what happened to Madam's company? What happened to her fortune? And how did we get it? We get asked all the time, are you related to Madam? How did you become the owners? And the book was written to answer all of those questions and to set the record straight on a lot of erroneous information that is out there about Madam Walker and her company.
Okay. Now, what we may have to do is get you back on the show. The book actually comes out so that we can, hear more about the book. Also, our show. Go ahead.
I said I'd be glad to.
Okay, great. Okay, our show has now come to a close. I hope you have enjoyed the show and gained knowledge while listening to Talking Business with Madam C.J. Walker Enterprises. Continue to check www.blogtalk.com/ASWIFT for more upcoming shows, or you can call us direct at 1-866-302-0508, extension 3060. You can also email us at aswiftradio@aswifwritersguild.com to give us your feedback on the show. Thank you again for tuning in and listening. This is Brenda Johnson-Paget here on ASWIFT Radio. And also, Vivian, before we go, did you want to give your website again for anyone else that wants to get in contact with you or just find out more about your company?
Yes, ma'am. Our website is www.madamwalker.net. That's MADAME Walker.net. www.madamwalker.net.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining me, Vivian. I really enjoyed
talking
with you.
Thank you for having me.
And you just have a blessed day, okay?
Thank you. You as well.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.